Yes, you can. Love fulfilled. Go ahead.
Love fulfilled does not exclude knowledge, but itself brings knowledge. And the completer the knowledge, the richer the possibility of love. By bhakti, says the Lord in the Gita, shall a man know me in all my extent and greatness, and as I am in the principles of my being. And when he has known me in the principles of my being, then he enters into me. Love without knowledge is a passionate and intense, but blind, crude, often dangerous thing. A great power, but also a stumbling block. Love, limited in knowledge, condemns itself in its fervor, and often by its very fervor to narrowness. But love leading to perfect knowledge brings the infinite and absolute union. Such love is not inconsistent with, but rather throws itself into joy, into divine works. For it loves God and is one with Him in all His being, and therefore in all beings. And to work for the world is then to feel and fulfill multitudinously one's love for God. This is the trinity of our power, the union of all three in God, to which we arrive when we start on our journey by the path of devotion with love for the angel of the way, to find in the ecstasy of the divine delight of the all lovers being the fulfillment of ours, its secure home and blissful abiding place, and the center of its universal radiation.
So, very small para, not a big one. So, love fulfilled does not exclude knowledge. Sometimes, if it is very narrow, it does exclude knowledge, and then it becomes dangerous, as he has said later on. So, we'll see that. Now, he is quoting the Gita, and the Gita is chapter 4, verses 34-35. By bhakti, says the Lord in the Gita, shall a man know me in all my extent and greatness, and as I am in the principles of my being. And when he has known me in the principles of my being, then he enters into me. The principles of his being, very obviously, Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. These are the principles of the divine. Substance, truth, consciousness, power, and Ananda. These are the principles. So if you know him, the divine fully, Tattvataha is the word used in the Gita. Tattvataha, Tattva, all the principles. Then you become one with it, enters into the fully become divine. We live in the divine. So even love has got many categories. Huh? But living in the divine, enter into him is one thing, and merging your being into him, or you can have love as a separation. You see him as separate, but you love him intensely. And it can also be a sort of friendship. There are so many grades. Okay? He's talking of the complete union. Sayujya Mukti. Love without knowledge is a passionate and intense, but blind, cruel, often dangerous thing. Very clearly, you can see that narrow is very obvious. Most of the other religions are narrow because they insist only on their own truth. No? They say only our religion is the right one, the others are all wrong. Then it will be dangerous also because the terror that you see everywhere, it is coming from an exclusivity. Only Allah is the real. Everything else is false. So it becomes dangerous. A great power, but also a stumbling block. Of course, the love in this way is very, very narrow and very, very negative. But the love is not at all pure and it is very impure. That's why it ends up like that. Love without knowledge is a passionate and intense, but blind, cruel, often dangerous thing. A great power, but also a stumbling block. Love, limited in knowledge, condemns itself in its fervor, and often by its very fervor to narrowness. There you are. Okay? When little knowledge is there, it condemns itself in its fervor, and often by its very fervor to narrowness. But love, leading to perfect knowledge, brings the infinite and absolute union. So he is giving you 3 grades of love. One is absolutely merging into the divine, then the absolutely perfect. The other is when knowledge is there a little bit. Okay, then you realize that love is also, it has to be pure. And if love is blind, then you realize that it's a great power but dangerous also. Then when it is full, okay, he says, love leading to perfect knowledge brings the infinite and absolute union. Note the word absolute union and the Gita's words, then he enters into me. So entering into his absolute union. Such love is not inconsistent with, but rather throws itself with joy into divine works. So again, Swami insisting on the works. Because sometimes even the Bhakti Yoga rejects the world. It is satisfied only with its relation to the divine and doesn't care for the world. It just lives only for the divine. Maybe the puja, maybe some works of charity, things like that. But otherwise, not interested in working in the physical world like a normal man. For it loves God and is one with Him in all His being and therefore in all beings. If the love is of and knowledge is perfect, you will see the divine in everybody. And if you see the divine in everybody, naturally you will want to do good to them. So you are engaged in the physical world with all actions. And to work for the world is then to feel and fulfill multitudinously one's love for God. Not only limited in one way, but multitudinously. You see the divine everywhere. This is the trinity of our powers. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Trinity of our powers. Love, knowledge, fulfill, and then you work in the world. That's a trinity. And for working, you need power. So, all the 3. Chit, Shakti, Ananda. All the 3. And the methods in the physical world are Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. This is the trinity of our powers, the unity of all 3 in God, to which we arrive when we start on our journey by the path of devotion, with love for the angel of the way. It's like an angel supporting you all the way and guiding you also. Love can guide like anything. Knowledge can be defective in the beginning, and then you can go astray also. But love will always guide you. The moment it starts becoming intense for the divine, it guides you. Angel of the way. And not only angel, but angel of the way. Okay, is guiding you in life to find in the ecstasy of divine delight of the all lovers being the fulfillment of ours. Its secure home and blissful abiding place and the center of its universal radiation. Universal radiation, you start, your love radiates all over the world and becomes a real, powerful spiritual action in the world. So, by love, what he is saying, okay, the Gita's chapter 4, verse 34-35, Tad Vidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. By Pranipatena, by surrender, by you fall at their feet, and Pariprashnaya, by constant questioning. Okay, that leads to knowledge. Seva, Sevaya, by Seva, the service to the divine. Then Upadekshanti Jnanam, Jnanina Tattva Darshana, the one who have got the knowledge of the tattvas, then that's what you know. Yad Jatva na punar moham evam yasyati. If you know the divine in all his aspects, in all his tattvas, then you will not ever be confused. Moham will not possible. Pandava, yena bhutani asheshena drakshasi atmani atho mai. Atmani, first you will see the divine in yourself. Then you will see in me. So the very often quotes is atho mai. Is the third level. Okay. The first level is your normal physical consciousness, the virat. The second level is the spiritual planes of consciousness or the subtle worlds. Okay, that is Atmani. Then finally, in the third level, so my in me, the Purushottam. Okay, so this is what we mean. Right. So we go to the next.
Is an angel and apsara one and the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. And it's only a different word. No? There are all beings are there in the subtle worlds. Apsaras are also the semi-divine creatures. Angels also are beings of light. Normally, in the Christian lore, they speak of the angels as beings of light. They come to guide and help. Very often, when people die in the Christian religion, you feel that beings of light are coming to help you. In our, we will not call them beings of light, but we will call them Kinnaras, Gandharvas. Okay? The Gandharvas are semi-divine creatures. So Apsaras also are there. But the Apsaras also are used sometimes for testing the surrender of the yogi. So all our stories are there so often that the Apsaras come and test your complete devotion to the Lord, devotion and knowledge. Okay, so we go to the next para. Since then, in the union of these three powers, Archana, if you can read, you will read.
Yes, Rangadhar.
Yeah, go ahead. Since then,
In the union of these three powers lies our base of perfection. The seeker of an integral self-fulfillment in the divine must avoid or throw away, if he has them at all, the misunderstanding and mutual depreciation which we often find existent between the followers of the three paths. Those who have the cult of knowledge seem often, if not to despise, yet to look downward from their dizzy eminence on the path of the devotee as if it were a thing inferior, ignorant, good only for souls that are not yet ready for the heights of the truth. It is true that devotion without knowledge is often a thing raw, crude, blind, and dangerous, as the errors, crimes, follies of the religious have too often shown. But this is because devotion in them has not found its own path, its own real principle, has not therefore really entered on the path, but is fumbling and feeling after it, is on one of the bypaths that lead to it. And knowledge, too, at this stage is as imperfect as devotion, dogmatic, schismatic, intolerant, bound up in the narrowness of some single and exclusive principle, even that being usually very imperfectly seized. When the devotee has grasped the power that shall raise him, has really laid hold on love, that in the end purifies and enlarges him as effectively as knowledge can. They are equal powers, though their methods of arriving at the same goal are different. The pride of the philosopher looking down on the passion of the devotee arises, as does all pride, from a certain deficiency of his nature. For the intellect too, exclusively, sorry, for the intellect too exclusively developed misses what the heart has to offer. The intellect is not in every way superior to the heart. If it opens more readily doors at which the heart is apt to fumble in vain, it is itself apt to miss truths which to the heart are very near and easy to hold. And if, when the way of thought deepens into spiritual experience, it arrives readily at the ethereal heights, pinnacles, sky widenesses, it cannot, without the aid of the heart, fathom the intense and rich abysses and oceanic depths of the divine being and the divine Ananda.
Very interesting para, because normally in India, the path of knowledge is supposed to be somewhat superior to the path of love. But that is only partially true. So Sridhar is making all that very clear. What love has got, knowledge may not have. The intensity of devotion and the extreme bliss may not be there in knowledge at all. It may be there to a certain extent, but may not be there at all. Because knowledge is something cold. It looks at things in a very logical in the sense of super logical manner. But it may not, unless you look very objectively, knowledge may not come. So that's why it is bereft of emotion. But emotion has a certain quality of rasa, which the knowledge may not have. That's why Sridhar is saying all the three have to merge together. I'm reading each sentence, very simple, not very difficult at all. But anyway, the words are interesting. Since then, in the union of these three powers, what are the three powers? Bhakti, Jnana, and Karma. Doing works also is a power corresponding to the Chit, Shakti, and Ananda. Three powers like our base of perfection, our base of perfection in the integral yoga. The other yogas, they are satisfied with only perfection in one field. They want only knowledge or they want only bhakti. Some may have combination also, okay, but not all. And it is so satisfying that you sometimes don't feel the need of anything else. You see, the seeker of the integral self-fulfillment in the divine must avoid or throw away. The seeker of an integral fulfillment in the divine must avoid or throw away, if he has them all at all, the misunderstanding. Throw away what? The misunderstanding and mutual depreciation which we often find existing between the followers of the three paths. Normally it is considered that Karma Yoga is the lowest, but actually it can be the most powerful. Okay. Jnana Yoga is supposed to be commonly understood in India. Jnana Yoga is the best, Bhakti Yoga is less, and Karma Yoga is even more ignorant because you are in the physical world. The Jnana Yoga ends in absolute union with the divine, only one. So oneness is superior to two-ness. Love, it means there are two to love. So it is considered slightly inferior. But these are all ideas which are the misunderstanding you have to throw away. So they say mutual depreciation, which you often find between the followers of the three paths. Those who have the cult of knowledge seem often, if not to despise, yet to look downward from their dizzy eminence on the path of the devotee, as if it were a thing inferior, ignorant, good only for souls that are not yet ready for the heights of the truth. It is true that devotion without knowledge is often a thing raw, crude, blind. You can see that in many religions. The famous religions, this crudeness is there. All of them they thrive on exclusivity. Only this is the way. There is no other way. That is narrowness. So, in the end, where is it gone? He's using very interesting words. We'll look at that. Okay? He's saying, 1 second. The thing inferior, ignorant. Inferior, ignorant. Sometimes my computer jumps. 1 second. The misunderstanding and mutual depreciation, which you often find existing between the followers of three paths. Those who have the cult of knowledge seem often, if not to despise, yet to look downward from the dizzy eminence on the path of the devotee, as if it were a thing inferior, ignorant, good only for souls that are not yet ready for the heights of the truth. It is true that devotion without knowledge is often a thing raw, crude, blind, and dangerous, as the errors, crimes, follies of the religion, of religious have often shown. He is talking of the religious, okay? The people who follow those religions, they are more exclusive in their methods than the religion itself. Religion also can be very narrow. But this is because devotion in them has not found its own path, its own real principle, has not therefore really entered on the path, but is fumbling and feeling it. Fumbling and feeling after it is on one of the bypaths that lead to it. If knowledge is there, it's a grand trunk, it's a highway, but otherwise it's a bypass. And knowledge to at this stage is as imperfect as devotion. It is dogmatic, schismatic. Schism is a break. Okay? Schism is division, schismatic. Okay? Intolerant, bound up in the narrowness of some single and exclusive principle. Exclusive principle, very clearly, all these are not only the religion, but even Mayavada, Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Islam, Christianity, all exclusively possessing of their own path. There is often a fight between Shaivites and Vaishnavites. They say that no, this is better, no, the other way, no, it's better. So all these are where the exclusive principle is dominating. Okay? So even that being usually very imperfectly seized. Even the exclusive principle is not seized, I'm just saying. When the devotee has grasped the power that shall raise him, has really laid hold on love, that is, that in the end purifies and enlarges him as effectively as knowledge can. In the Gita, it says that knowledge is a great purifier. Love. And love is for it's an emotion. But knowledge is often seen as a light. And when the light enters the mind, it throws away the darkness. So it's a great purifier. The Gita also says that knowledge is a great purifier. Jnana deepena bhasvata. Jnana deepa, the lamp of knowledge, throws away the darkness. So they are equal powers. Self is very categorical. Love and knowledge are equal powers. Though their methods of arriving at the same goal are different. The pride of the philosopher, looking down on the passion of the devotee, arises, as does all pride, from a certain deficiency of his nature. For the intellect too, Archanati also corrected herself and I am also correcting myself. For the intellect too exclusively developed misses what the heart has to offer. The intellect is not in every way superior to the heart. Note the word not in every way. In some ways it is superior, but not in every way. They are all complementary aspects. They are not opposites. Okay? You can't say also that they are absolutely equal in this sense because they are all different qualities. You can't compare two fruits and say which is superior, which is inferior. Apples and pineapples. So here also it is different. Each one has got its own qualities. The intellect is not in every way superior to the heart. If it opens more readily doors at which the heart is apt to fumble in vain, it is itself apt to miss truths, which to the heart are very near and easy to hold. There is a very famous phrase in French which says, "Le cœur a ses raisons, que la raison ne connaît pas." In other words, the heart has got its own reasons, which reason does not know at all. So that is exactly what Srila is saying here. The heart has got qualities which the mind may not have. To miss the truth. And if when the way of thought deepens into spiritual experience, it arrives readily at the ethereal heights. The ethereal heights is the highest level. pinnacles, sky widenesses. Look at the language. Sky wideness, okay, not narrowness, okay, but sky widenesses. It cannot, without the aid of the heart, fathom the intense and rich abysses and oceanic depths of the divine being and the divine Anand. So he wants both together. Actually, he wants all the three together. Love, knowledge, as well as action in the physical world. We go to the third one, the way of bhakti is supposed to be. So, Kiran, maybe if you have got the text, you can read today. And the way of bhakti. Okay?
Yes, brother.
Go ahead.
The way of bhakti is supposed often to be necessarily inferior because it proceeds by worship, which belongs to that stage of spiritual experience where there is a difference, an insufficient unity between the human soul and the divine, because its very principle is love, and love means only two, the lover and the beloved, a dualism therefore, while oneness is the highest spiritual experience, and because it seeks after the personal God, while the impersonal is the highest and the eternal truth, if not even the sole reality. But worship is only the first step on the path of devotion, where external worship changes into the inner adoration. Real bhakti begins, that deepens into the intensity of divine love. That love leads to the joy of closeness in our relations with the divine. The joy of closeness passes into the bliss of union. Love, too, as well as knowledge, brings us to a highest oneness, and it gives to that oneness its greatest possible depth and intensity. It is true that love returns gladly upon a difference in oneness, by which the oneness itself becomes richer and sweeter. But here we may say that the heart is wiser than the thought, at least than that thought which fixes upon opposite ideas of the divine and concentrates on one to the exclusion of the other, which seems its contrary, but is really its contemplation, but is really its complement, and a means of its greatest fulfillment. This is the weakness of the mind, that it limits itself by its thoughts, its positive and negative ideas, the aspects of the divine reality that it sees, and tends too much to pit one against the other.
Okay, so again, there is warning that don't go into the controversy of love and knowledge. They are both equal to each other, in a sense. The way of bhakti is supposed often to be necessarily inferior because it proceeds by worship, which belongs to the stage of spiritual experience where there is a difference, the difference between you and the divine. There is a difference. An insufficient unity between the human soul and the divine because its very principle is love. And love means always two. You can't have only love by one. If you start loving yourself, then it is narcissism. Okay? Narcissism. Narcissus, if you remember, is an image of in Greek lore of one who looks at his image in water and he falls in love with them. This is the principle of egoism. Okay, so it is love is supposed to be two. Two must there be or love. Love means always two, the lover and the beloved. A dualism, therefore, while oneness is the highest spiritual experience, and because it seeks after the personal divine with the impersonal, while the impersonal is the highest and eternal truth, if not even the sole reality. Okay, this is all suppositions. Whereas we know very well, the Srimad also agrees and the Gita also agrees that the third level, the Purushottama or Srimada's Ishvara, are really both personal and impersonal. They include both the aspects. So this quarrel between love and knowledge is not at all necessary. Okay, that's what he said. And also, by the way, Shankara theory is absolute oneness. Okay? There is only one. The divine soul and the human soul are essentially one. There is no difference. Essentially. Then we come to Ramanuja. Ramanuja, 500 years earlier, he lived in on the banks of the Kaveri. Okay, so he says that you can love the divine, but you can also merge into him. So that is the Bheda. Bheda as well as Abheda. Difference and also oneness. So, and then there is a third one, that is Madhvacharya, and they will say, no, you can have love for the divine, but you can never become one with the divine. So there are other philosophers also in Maharashtra where they say that. I think it is Nimbarkar or somebody like that, where they say that no, you can have a relation with the divine, just as in Christianity. You can't become the divine, but you can have a relation with the divine. Love is possible, but not oneness. So this was Sridhar's warning in saying that these ideas are not very correct. That's what he said. Then he is also saying that worship is only the first step on the path of devotion. When you go to worship, where external worship changes into inner adoration, the real bhakti begins. External worship, you go to the temple and you see the images, or you go to the church and you see the images of either Mother Mary or the Christ on the cross, and you have devotion for them. That is external worship. But when it generates emotion in you, it becomes a real bhakti, inner adoration. Real bhakti begins. That deepens into the intensity of divine love. So, at that time, you may not need the idols. Either in temple or in the church or anywhere, you don't need the idols. Where external worship changes into inner adoration, real bhakti begins. That deepens into the intensity of divine love. That love leads to the joy of closeness in our relations with the divine. The joy of closeness passes into the bliss of union. So Sri Aurobindo says it is very possible for this to end in the union. Love too, as well as knowledge, brings us to a highest oneness, and it gives to that oneness its greatest possible depth and intensity. So when you say that you cannot become, then it is love at the lower level. Okay, we are talking not of the union, but of the two-ness, the duality between yourself and the divine. Love too, as well as knowledge, brings us to the highest oneness, and it gives to that oneness its greatest possible depth and intensity. It is true that love returns gladly upon a difference in oneness. Now, note this very interesting what Sridhar is saying, by which oneness itself becomes richer and sweeter. Okay? That when you have love with two, that itself can also make the oneness even richer and more sweet. And that love, it is true that love returns gladly upon a difference in oneness. You don't mind the difference between you and the divine, because the intimacy is so sweet. Okay? You enjoy it. But here we may say that the heart is wiser than thought, at least than that thought which fixes upon opposite ideas of the divine and concentrates on one to the exclusion of the other, which seems its contrary, but is really its complement. Kiran, know the word complement? Okay, there is no PLE. Okay, complement means another aspect. Whereas you put PLI, it means a praise. Okay, your praise is yeah, complement, and a means of its greatest fulfillment. This is a weakness of the mind, that it limits itself by its thoughts, its positive and negative ideas. Positive ideas, what to think of the divine, and negative, what to think the divine is not. Okay. The aspects of the divine reality that it sees, and tends too much to pit one against the other. So in the integral path, we don't do that. We don't look down upon those who are going only with love. That's what we will say. We have 6 minutes more. We can read one more. Shilpa, can you read the next one?
Yes, Rangada, I can read.
Go ahead. Thought in the mind, vichar.
Yes. Thought in the mind, vichar, the philosophic trend by which mental knowledge approaches the divine, is apt to tend to lend a greater importance to the abstract over the concrete, to that which is high and remote over that which is intimate and near. It finds a greater truth in the delight of the one in itself, a lesser truth or even a falsehood in the delight of the one in the many and of the many in the one. A greater truth is in the impersonal and the nirguna, a lesser truth or a falsehood in the personal and the saguna. But the divine is beyond our oppositions of ideas, beyond the logical contradictions we make between his aspects. He is not, we have seen, bound and restricted by exclusive unity. His oneness realizes itself in infinite variation, and to the joy of that, love has the complete, completest key, without therefore missing the joy of the unity. The highest knowledge and highest spiritual experience by knowledge find his oneness as perfect in his various relations with the many as in his absorbed delight, as in his self-absorbed delight. If to thought the impersonal seems the wider and higher myth, truth, the personal narrower experience, the spirit finds both of them to be aspects of a reality which figures itself in both, and if there is a knowledge of that reality to which thought arrives by insistence on the infinite impersonality, there is also a knowledge of it to which love arrives by insistence on the infinite personality. The spiritual experience of each leads, if followed to the end, to the same ultimate truth by bhakti as by knowledge. As the Gita tells us, we arrive as unity at unity with the Purushottama, the Supreme, who who contains in itself the impersonal and numberless personalities, the qualityless and infinite qualities, pure being, conscious and delight, and the endless play of their relations. The personalities has been written little split ways, no personalities in my book.
Okay. So what did you say? I didn't follow.
The numberless personalities, there is a printing mistake, I think. Personalities instead of
Yeah, person. There's a mistake then, obviously. Personalities, numberless personalities and qualityless and infinite qualities. So we have only 2 minutes left. We can't do it, but we can review this next time. Anyway, Surendra is constantly saying that the quarrel between love and knowledge, which exists at the lower levels, can disappear entirely when you go to the 3rd level, that's a Purushottama. When you go to the Purushottama level, he is personal and impersonal, and there is also knowledge as well as love, and everything is there. And you also have the power to work in the physical world, and therefore even the karma becomes perfect in the physical world. So it should be a combination of all. Otherwise, all this difference between love and knowledge should not exist at all. That's what he's saying in the integral view. So we stop here today. Maybe we can do this again next time. Thought in the mind. So we can redo this one because there are some ideas there which we can discuss a little bit. So, Suki, today you are the only one who did not read. I was hoping that you would be able to read because these are all
Yes.
paras. These are all small paras. Note, very interesting. Okay. In the Jnana Yoga part, the long paras. But here the paras are all small. 4 people could read them. So anyway, so we can redo this one next time. Thought in the mind. Okay?
Yes, I will make a note.
Good. Okay, then. Au revoir, everybody.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rangata.
Thank you.